Hi.
I'm Foxy.
He's Foxy. My name is John Morgan.
It's true. They know. They probably have seen
They probably
before.
have.
Unless you're new, also, and then welcome, I guess. But where have you been?
I know, seriously, you should have been following around for a little bit.
There's more comics discussed on this episode of the Super Awesome Comic Review Show than possibly ever before.
He was mainlining a fat stack of comics, and just plowing through all these new DC titles. DC Rebirth. I'm actually hearing some pretty nice things from you and from others.
Yeah, there were 5 more titles this week. We got an Aquaman. We got a Detective Comics. We got an Action Comics. We got a Flash. We got a Wonder Woman.
We got everything you might possibly want here.
But really all you really want...
Tell me what I really want. Tell me what I really, really want.
You wanna Wonder Woman.
Ah, see, that makes good sense to me, because Greg Rucka has come back. He's actually had a very long run of her, I don't know, almost like 9 or 8 years ago at this point. And it was one of my favorite of her stories, was the ones he did about her, so it's fun to see him back.
And I don't think he'd be back if they hadn't solved whatever problems he had with DC that made him leave in the first place.
I'm assuming they took someone out back and shot them. It's actually,
Perhaps the editorial interference blanket has been lifted.
Ugh.
That seems to be what the whole Rebirth initiative is all about, is letting storytellers tell good stories, and Greg Rucka is a good storyteller.
Yeah,
so
really. And
fasten your safety belts, because Wonder Woman is aware of the meta-reality of her own having more than one origin story, and that is a reason for storytelling.
Absolutely. So is it kind of like a detective series? I mean, is she going to be researching things and trying to find this out?
It seems so, and also there will be 2 parallel storylines by 2 different artists. This seems to be the only title so far that's taking that into account in story, where the A story is going to be the current timeline, and the B story is delving into Wonder Woman's past, exploring the mysteries of the multiple origin
stories. And she does have a lot, actually. There's several different versions of sort of Wonder Woman. One's like she's made from clay. One she has a human father and an Amazonian mother.
Amazonian queen mother and a human soldier, like American soldier father.
Yeah.
And then there's another one that includes other Greek gods, like Hercules or something like that.
It's not just Zeus raping everybody?
That's what it is. It's Zeus raping everybody.
It's Zeus pretty much is raping people all the time as far as I can tell in Greek myths.
Yeah, that's like his whole shtick.
It was kind of his bag, frankly.
Sometimes as a goose.
Oh.
But anyway, that is your DC Rebirth wrap-up for the week. Other comics came out. If you're curious, as you expected, the weakest of the titles is Aquaman.
Oh.
Moving right along, Grizzly Shark versus Sea Bear number 3 came out
Speaking of weak outputs, actually.
And I don't know why I felt the need to talk about this, other than it is, hands down, the dumbest idea for a comic ever, but beautiful, and it makes me laugh, and for whatever reason, I had to read the whole thing. And
that's a pretty good sign, really.
Yeah, I mean, it was dumb on purpose. It was dumb funny.
It was not dumb by accident.
No, this was, from conception to execution, the dumbest story you could ever imagine, and gory as hell. So, moving right along.
What do you have next for us?
Another bloody story.
Uh-huh.
But this one has a lot of gravity to it. House of Penance, number 3.
What's House of Penance?
Well, it's Tomasi and Bertram's comic about the heiress to the Winchester rifle fortune.
Oh, yeah.
Building that insane Winchester house that you can visit in real life.
The first time I actually ever read about that house was in Alan Moore's Swamp Thing comic.
Oh, wow, cool.
Yeah.
Anyway, continues to be awesome. The ghosts are still represented by serpentine, blood-drippy things, and the panel arrangements are just out of this world. A lot of really creative visuals, and also this issue we actually get quite a bit more context, motivation for Miss Winchester, and we get to see a little bit more of her family history and hear her discuss her own perspective on things.
Oh, interesting.
Very cool story. Definitely check it out. Everybody's talking about it. It's like Mike Allred was just talking about it in that interview that was posted this week. So.
Oh, no kidding. Yeah, it actually sounds amazing.
In the Fuse, I think. But anyway, check it out. House of Penance, number 3. Selling out. From our shelves, at least. How's your shop? Head Lopper, number 4 of 4 from Image Comics, Andrew McLean.
Andrew McLean, who is maybe one of the new really bright stars in terms of illustration. No one draws like him.
Really good ending to this first arc, and at the back they announced that the trade will be out in October, and there will be more Head Lopper.
Oh, thank God. I actually think it's a fun series.
Yeah, it's great. Great story, and Agatha the Witch is just one of the best characters in comics ever.
You mean the headless one? You mean like the head?
Yeah, she's just a head that Head Lopper carries around.
And she just snarks at him all the time.
Yeah, but sometimes she has a helpful little input here and there too. So
she's like almost any man's like sort of inner like ego, really, just constantly undermining him.
Oh, absolutely.
But occasionally kicking in just enough extra work.
It's beautiful because without that, I think he would just be the most self-assured character ever, and he would never talk. Now he pretty much only talks to tell her to shut up. So it's awesome.
It's
Check
pretty good.
it out. Also awesome this week, The Fix number 3. Nick Spencer and Steve Lieber are creating
Put out a very funny comic.
a very good comic. If you were a fan of Superior Foes of Spider-Man, that was a real crowd pleaser. Lasted longer than even Marvel wanted to publish it because of crowd love. And this book is selling out. This is an Image comic by Steve Lieber and Nick Spencer that has gone to 3rd printing on the 1st issue, 2nd printing on the 2nd issue, and the 3rd issue just came out this week.
That actually makes good sense to me. I think like I like the Superior Foes of Spider-Man, but there was some part of me that kind of wanted to see them get cut free from the Marvel
totally
universe.
Unbridled from any sort of parental content advisories.
Exactly. And a lot of the jokes from what I was like looking at in issue 1 are set up in very similar ways to that comic. So
yeah, the concept is they're criminals, but also their day job is cops. So
yeah,
that makes for some dramatic tension.
No, totally.
And comedic hijinks.
A lot of comedic hijinks, and it's a really dense comic, by the way. You're going to get your money's worth on that one.
Absolutely. Empress by Mark Millar. Number 3 is my favorite issue so far. Mark Millar and Stuart Immonen. Or how would you like to pronounce it?
I like Immonen.
Immonen.
Just kind of like
that's like imminent.
Like falling down like a cliff. Immonen.
It's an imminent descent into enjoyment.
Exactly.
Because this book is fantastic.
It's kind of like a Flash Gordon genre. It's certainly not heavy science fiction. It feels much closer to fantasy in a lot of ways.
And this issue happened to be my favorite because this had the most humanity to it, I felt like. They were getting into like the human elements of this family that's on the run from their abusive father.
Yeah, exactly. And I thought like it had like a really great discussion between the daughter, who is very much like a warrior like her father is.
Yeah, she's pro-dad.
She's pro-dad, and she's pro the kind of like dictatorial rule that he uses. And the mom, instead of like, why do you hate my dad? And the idea that the mom is saying like, essentially like, once upon a time I did love your father, but I became a very different person. I could no longer love him. It's actually a really good sort of message, actually, that like, we do evolve as people, and like, just because something was okay for us 5 years ago doesn't mean it needs to be now.
Nope. And also, just because the daughter was enjoying this stay in Daddy Town doesn't mean everybody else in the family was getting along.
Yeah, exactly. Having such a good time with it.
Yeah, her little brother was very much aware that he was in a dangerous position because he's not a tough machismo dude like his dad.
Right.
And his dad kills people that aren't good for the business, basically.
Yeah, exactly.
So, Mark Millar doesn't always work for everybody.
But I think because some of his work has been a little sketchy in the past.
Yeah,
but this is not one of those times. He has also produced great works, like Red Sun.
And his Ultimates work for Marvel, which really shaped the whole cinematic universe, and then reflexively came back and ended up affecting the main line of Marvel Comics as well.
Yeah.
From a design standpoint and like a storytelling gravitas kind of standpoint.
Yeah, and in terms of mood. If you take away the Ultimates, the MCU would look very, very different.
Absolutely. So really, Mark Millar has been responsible for a lot of media properties, a lot of great comics.
And a lot of great comics. I mean, really, that's the point.
Like, and hey, you're going to make some missteps. This isn't one of them. This is fantastic.
No, absolutely, you should check this one out. It's a lot of fun.
It's a lot of fun. High watermark, Stuart Immonen. What more do you need?
Yeah.
Moving on, Howard the Duck, issue number 8, by Chip Zdarsky and Joe Quinones.
This was actually my first Howard the Duck. I hadn't actually dipped into the Chip Zdarsky before.
But you are versed in the Steve Gerber.
I am versed in the Steve Gerber Howard the Duck, which is, by the way, if you ever get a chance, a very strange comic indeed that came out of the 70s during the Bronze Age. It is a very personal work when works weren't that personal. And really, it's interesting because I was reading the Quinones and it has some very, what do you call it, sad, sort of sorrowful moments.
Yeah, which rings true.
Some
with
very,
the old,
very poignant moments. And that pretty much works for the old Gerbers. They also had moments of sort of real, sort of intense emotions to them. This one's actually quite interesting because it's a little bit about Howard's selfishness, or Howard's selfishness in terms of his need to view things in the light of his being a hero.
Yeah, he always sees things through his lens. Well, and even not necessarily being the hero, but he's the center of his own universe.
Right,
and he knows
so.
He's a magnet for bad stuff.
For bad stuff, and he meets his old friend from the days of the Steve Gerber comics. Beverly.
Also played by Leah Thompson in the film version.
In the film version of Howard the Duck. Although I understand in the comic there wasn't quite as much, action.
Yeah, in the movie they totally got it on.
They totally
which I'm a fan of.
I can see why, because there are times you sit at home, you're like, can I get some? Well, Howard did.
Yeah, Howard did.
And he got Leah Thompson. So
and I'm a short animal who talks to humans, so
exactly.
There's a shot for all of us out there.
There's a shot for everybody, really. But so in this case, it's interesting because he comes and he says, "Didn't we have a great time?" And the comic has some great moments where it shows the same scene again and again.
Yeah, like three different times, three different perspectives on the same panels. It's like Howard's version,
exactly,
what really happened, and then what that meant for Beverly's perspective.
Yeah, exactly. And so, I don't know, I thought it was really quite interesting. I mean, it was more emotional than I was expecting, but it's still funny, I should point that out.
Yeah, lots of laugh-out-loud moments, and then moments that kind of tear you up a little bit.
Yeah, exactly.
Great job, Chip Zdarsky. You really knock it out of the park with this comic every month.
Yeah.
Last up for this week's comics. Island, issue number 8 from Image Comics, with contributions by Michael DeForge, Simon Roy, Ben Sears, and a couple of other people, but those were the big ones.
DeForge, I definitely think Island is one of the best anthologies. It might be the best anthology currently being put out. Brandon and Emma Rios both very much have their fingers on the pulse of newest cartoonists coming out, or new comic book artists that I may not have heard of. And they're always pretty fascinating, and they're always DeForge. I knew. I mean,
some of them are on the cutting edge enough to where they've published quite a bit. DeForge has a lot of books that are all fantastic.
Yeah,
and he's always so freaking weird and bleak.
He's weird and bleak, but he looks very abstract, but he's actually quite concrete in terms of the storytelling.
Yeah, and his contribution to Island. A one and done, self-encapsulated story.
I thought it was pretty
really
amazing.
Fantastic sci-fi. Yeah. The concepts were solid as always, and then you're just like, really? That's where you're gonna end it? Okay,
yeah, exactly.
You and colossal dick.
It's kind of poetic. It's kind of bleak. And it's all very geometric, and it's all lines,
he always keeps it
lines and spheres, and
you can see why he has worked for Adventure Time. Let's just say that.
Yeah, absolutely. He definitely seems overqualified for Adventure Time.
Oh yeah, and he can't put half of his ideas in Adventure Time either. But moving on to Simon Roy's half of the comic.
Simon Roy's was just crazy. He's been working. He was in the first one, right?
This is part 4 of 4.
Part 4 of 4
of Simon Roy's epic, and
he went all over the place with this in terms of it's a science fiction world that was allowed to sort of descend into sort of primitive madness.
Yeah, we're seeing this kind of satellite society at the end of its days. Potentially it's the unraveling.
Yeah, the unraveling of basically that civilization. It was obviously a civilization at one point was quite sophisticated. And then, at some point, just began going downhill, and quickly, it seems like.
And they've been under security protocols for, hundreds of years?
For hundreds of years, yeah exactly. And
so, a lot of infighting, and cannibalism, and just different sects. It's kind of, honestly, it's kind of hard to keep track of which sect of the population is responsible for
it was a little bit. And, but I think, the interesting thing is, whenever they start trying to pull together, in a sort of unified way, the kind of speak they use always feels very kind of bureaucratic, almost governmental.
Yeah, they're reading it's like blue screen protocol or something.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, they had to go to the PDF for their version of the Constitution.
Exactly.
So yeah, I don't know. It's quite interesting. I have to say, go check it out. If you're not following Island, you should.
No matter what with Island, there's always something that's really there to marvel at. It's a marvelous book, pretty much every time it comes out. So.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thanks for coming on, John.
Oh, well, thanks very much, Foxy. It's always a pleasure.
The pleasure was all the audience's.
We'll see how many thumbs down I get this time.
We don't always get the thumbs down, but we always get the thumbs down when you're on. So don't let us down, internet.
No, please, show me some love.
Do you wanna say the old tagline?
Be a feminist.
Yeah, okay.
Be a feminist.
I'll do that. Thank you for your input on my lifestyle choices.